This is the tale of a girl who, while striving to complete the biggest task of her life, found herself entangled in love with her father's friend. The story begins with a company, and from the very first day the company came into existence, it was drowned in crises. Crowds of furious people gathered outside, waving their fists and demanding their money back, accusing the family of swindling them. The chaos made headlines everywhere. On the other side, another woman was shown speaking to her partner. She confidently remarked that they had already gotten rid of Shan Jiao family, and now it was time to target his daughter as well. She ordered her men to find Lucy quickly so the matter could be eradicated from its roots. Her men, meanwhile, were searching for Jiao's daughter. But Lucy was with our male lead, Wang, who assured her that from now on, protecting her was his responsibility and that nothing would happen to her. At that very moment, the lady's men appeared. Wang stepped forward to fight them while urging Lucy to run for her life, warning her never to let herself fall into their hands. Lucy obeyed and fled into the pitch-dark night, sprinting down the lonely road. While running, her father's words echoed painfully in her mind. Perhaps he would no longer be there to protect her. But she was his wonderful daughter and had to take great care of herself. Lost in these thoughts, she stumbled, crashed to the ground, and with that fall, her memory shattered. She forgot who she was and which family she belonged to. The next scene jumped 15 years ahead, when everything in Lucy's life had completely changed. She had been adopted by another family. Her adoptive mother was now hell-bent on arranging her engagement with her grandfather. She reassured him that since she had adopted the girl had no choice but to obey, and she would personally see to it that the engagement took place. She began calling for her, addressing her by the new name they had given her, Ding Dong. When Lucy finally appeared, she remarked cheekily that she thought it was the dogs outside barking and not her mother calling. Well, when your new name is Ding Dong, mistaking yourself for a dog isn't exactly far-fetched. She added that she was late for work, so she wouldn't be having breakfast. Her adoptive mother snapped at her to sit down and reminded her that today was her engagement with her grandfather, whether she agreed or not. Lucy stood frozen in shock. Meanwhile, Wang was still searching for Lucy, made a phone call, inquiring about an investigation he had ordered. His assistant, Brother Love, reported that the girl who had gone missing 15 years ago had been adopted by a lady, renamed Ding Dong, and was now working as a cleaner in a hotel. At the same time, the grandfather was coaxing Lucy not to be angry and to sit with him, since they would soon be family. Lucy's patience snapped as she retorted that he was old enough to be her grandfather, yet wanted to marry her, and she even flung a glass of water on him before storming out for work. Her mother ordered her to stop, but Lucy shouted back that she was not her real mother, so she had no right to control her life, and she certainly would not marry anyone on her command. The next scene showed Wang arriving at his destination, checking into a hotel. At the same time, Lucy reached her workplace, telling herself once again that every day was a fresh beginning, though as always, she was late. Her boss scolded her over the phone, asking if she had cleaned the room yet. She apologized for her tardiness and assured him she was on her way. Entering the room, she noticed everything looked perfectly tidy and wondered if the guest hadn't arrived yet. But when she spotted a man inside the washroom, none other than Wang, panic set in. At that very moment his phone rang. Before he came out, Lucy quickly lay down on the bed and covered herself with a blanket, hoping to remain unseen. Wang answered his call, informing the staff of his room number and requesting cleaning service. Hearing the number, Lucy nearly fainted, realizing she had entered the wrong room. She prayed desperately not to be discovered. Just then, her own phone rang loudly. Wang frowned, wondering whose phone it was, while Lucy froze under the blanket. Eventually, Wang uncovered her. Embarrassed, she muttered an apology, admitted the phone was hers, and bolted out of the room like a rabbit chased by wolves. If escaping awkward situations were an Olympic sport, she'd have taken the gold right there. Later, Wang was venting his anger to his assistant, threatening to file a complaint against the hotel, fuming at how that girl dared to sneak into his room and even lie on his bed. Meanwhile, poor Ding Dong was running from her adoptive mother and grandfather, declaring that she would never marry that grandfather, and begging someone to save her. Wang, overhearing the commotion, turned and recognized that she was the very same girl who had barged into his room earlier. The grandfather pleaded desperately with her to stop running, professing his love for her, but she screamed at them to stay away, vowing never to marry him. While trying to escape, she slipped and fell into the swimming pool despite not knowing how to swim. Her adoptive mother scolded the grandfather, demanding why he didn't jump in to save her, reminding him she was his future wife. Wang helplessly admitted he didn't know how to swim. Wang, though not truly knowing her, couldn't bear to watch her drown. Without hesitation, he leapt into the pool and rescued her. As he held her, fragments of her old memories resurfaced, flashes of Wang's voice from the past, telling her that from now on he would protect her, and that she must run. Confused and uneasy, she wondered whose memories these were and why they felt so familiar. Wang kissed her gently to calm her and then lifted her out of the pool. Even afterward, she kept murmuring the name Lucy, a name she didn't even know anymore, since her current identity was Ding Dong. But Wang recognized her instantly and took her along with him. Afterwards, Lucy woke up, biting Wang's hand hard, snapping herself fully awake. She asked furiously where she was and who had changed her clothes. Wang, still annoyed, reassured her that his female assistant had changed them. He sent Brother Love out of the room so he could speak to her privately. He showed her the pendant and asked where she had gotten it. Lucy replied that it was hers. Wang then asked if she had ever been to Handy Road. Lucy admitted she wasn't sure why, but suddenly fragments of memories were returning to her mind. She recalled, as I was running frantically down that road, I suddenly tripped and fell flat on the ground. After that, everything went blank. The only thing I remembered was calling out the name Lucy again and again. By this time, Wang had also recognized her. Grabbing her tightly by the chin, he declared with satisfaction that he had finally found her. Wang then revealed everything about her true identity. Hearing this, she anxiously asked that if she indeed belonged to the Shanjiao family, and her name was Lucy, then who exactly was he? Wang calmly replied that he was her father's friend, and her father had entrusted her to his care to protect her. Since he was her senior, she could respectfully call him uncle. Uncle, however, was what he asked her to call him, but what about the fact that just a while ago this very same man had stolen a kiss from her? Both of them felt painfully awkward over that kiss, as if caught rehearsing for the wrong play. Wang quickly apologized, saying it was nothing but an incident that shouldn't be taken seriously. After that, Lucy gathered courage and asked why her father had been framed when he had committed no fault. Wang explained that he had tried to find evidence but failed. Without a moment's hesitation, Lucy declared she would return to her family to uncover proof of her father's innocence. Wang immediately stopped her, warning that returning there would be dangerous, and instead insisted on sending her abroad to complete her studies. Hearing this, Lucy flared up with anger, saying that first her adopted mother had controlled her life, and now he too wanted to dominate her decisions. She refused to go abroad and insisted she would go back to her family. While arguing, she suddenly slipped and fell onto him, breaking a bottle in the process and injuring Wang. Seeing the wound, Lucy panicked, apologized, and begged him to let her return to her family so she could fight for her father. Wang's heart melted for a moment, but just then Brother Love entered and, seeing the two in such a compromising position, awkwardly apologized as if he had just walked into the wrong theater show. He turned to leave, but Wang stopped him and ordered him to make arrangements to take Lucy to the Shanjiao family the next day. He added coldly that from now on, whether she lived or died, it would make no difference to him. With those harsh words, he walked away. The next day, both men escort Lucy outside the Shanjiao residence. Wang pointed at the house and warned her to take care of herself, since no one there would protect her. Wang smirked and replied that if she succeeded in reclaiming her identity within the family, then she could do much for him. He urged her to go before anyone spotted her. After she left, Wang instructed Love to arrange someone to keep a secret watch on her, since he didn't want her harmed. The manager escorts Lucy into the Shanjiao residence. He explained details about the household and handed her over to Madame Hongwu, the supervisor of maids, instructing her that Lucy would now work under her authority. Lucy changed into her uniform. She couldn't hide her happiness, feeling that finally she had entered the house where she might uncover evidence to prove her father's innocence. Madame Hongwu gathered the staff and lectured them that since they were part of this family's service, they must live as one. Afterwards, the manager showed Lucy around the household, explaining that the left room belonged to Miss Chavan, the boss's daughter, while the right room belonged to Miss Jia, the boss's granddaughter. He warned her that while she could access the second floor, the third floor was strictly forbidden. Immediately, Lucy suspected that her parents' room must be on the third floor, and she resolved that if she wanted evidence, she would have to sneak up there. She assured the manager that she understood his instructions. As he left, Jia came down the stairs. Seeing her, Lucy froze with nerves, unable to utter a single word. Jia noticed and scolded her, asking why she hadn't greeted her properly. She mocked Lucy's manners but also remarked that she looked rather sweet, and questioned why such a girl would choose to work as a maid. When Lucy still didn't respond, Gia threatened to fire her on the spot. At that moment, Lucy cleverly pointed out that Gia had been glancing at her watch while descending the stairs, which meant she was already running late for somewhere important. She quickly listed train and flight schedules that could still get her there on time. Gia was impressed by her quick wit, and just then the manager returned. Gia instructed him to explain all her routines to Lucy, since from now on she would handle her daily affairs. Relieved to have escaped the situation, Lucy thought to herself that although she had momentarily dodged trouble, dealing with these people would not be easy. If she wanted to find evidence, she would have to search during the night. Late at night, while others rested, Lucy continued cleaning, determined to finish her duties, and then begin her real search. However, Gia's husband, Wen Xin, a notorious playboy, noticed her and began watching her with questionable intentions. Silently, he followed her as she climbed to the forbidden third floor. Believing the coast was clear, Lucy entered a room that she suspected belonged to her parents. Wen Xin, curious, slipped in after her. Inside, Lucy discovered the room unused, but when she spotted a photograph of herself with her parents, she realized with certainty it was indeed their room. Memories of their happy family days overwhelmed her, and she swore to avenge her parents. She had just begun searching for evidence when a beer bottle slipped and shattered because Wen Xin had knocked it over. Shocked, Lucy turned to see him, and he demanded to know what she was doing there, reminding her it was forbidden. She quickly lied, claiming she had finished cleaning downstairs and thought she should also clean late Zhao's room. Suspicious, Wen Xin asked how she even knew Zhao's name and accused her of being interested in the Shan Zhao fortune. Saying so, he advanced on her with ill intent. Lucy resisted, demanding he let her go, but Wen Xin had no intention of stopping. Finally, in desperation, she delivered a sharp kick to his most vulnerable spot, the kind of move that should be taught in every women's self-defense class, and freed herself. Leaving him doubled over in agony, she locked him inside the room and ran away. While running, she noticed Wen Xin's phone lying on the floor. She quietly picked it up and kept it with herself, thinking it might serve as solid evidence later. The following morning, Wen Xin appeared in a wheelchair, furiously scolding the maid. He snapped that she couldn't even push a wheelchair properly and should hurry before his wife arrived, otherwise how could he possibly explain the sudden disaster with his legs? The poor maid looked so confused that one might think she was being asked to drive a rocket instead of a chair. Just then, Gia walked in, and the maid immediately ran away, muttering that she had urgent work elsewhere, leaving Wen Xin to his doom. Gia, without wasting time, demanded why, in her absence of merely 2 days, he had managed to perform such outrageous stunts behind her back. She accused him of shamelessly trying to save his own skin. Wen Xin stuttered in defense, saying it wasn't his fault, claiming that the girl Ding Dong had deliberately made him drunk just to put him in embarrassment. But before he could spin his story further, Miss Hong appeared, dragged Lucy forward, and declared that Gia's husband was lying. She accused Wen Xin of intentionally trying to bully Lucy, and added that if the girl hadn't saved herself in time, there was no telling what else he would have done. They expected Gia to side with them, but instead she pushed them back sharply, stating that it was her husband and only she had the right to decide what should be done with him. She ridiculed them as poor ladies trying to teach her how to manage her own family, and instantly fired them. Miss Hong fell to her knees, pleading desperately not to be dismissed, explaining that she had a family to take care of. Wen Xin, meanwhile, was silently enjoying the entire spectacle as if he had bought front-row tickets to a comedy show, delighted that Gia had ignored both women and still believed only in him. Watching Hong cry miserably, Lucy nervously promised Gia that she would never make the matter public if only she would reconsider the firing. But instead of relenting, Gia taunted Lucy for failing in her duties, asking why she had been looking after her husband instead of focusing on her. She mockingly called her a pretty little witch, and even raised her hand to slap her, when suddenly First Lady Madame Mary entered the scene. Madame Mary, with dramatic flair, demanded to know who had dared to bully her beloved niece. Gia retorted coldly that it was none of her concern, claiming she was only dealing with disobedient servants and that Mary should not interfere. The way the two women argued made it glaringly obvious that they had never gotten along. Mary turned to Lucy and Hong, asking if her niece had really bullied them, and suggested that if so, they could either call the police or ask for compensation, promising to support them. Gia furiously objected, asking Mary why she was interfering again. Mary quipped sarcastically that Gia had even stopped calling her aunt now, which was plain rude, and threatened that she would report it to the grandfather. She scolded Gia, remarking that just because she held some power didn't mean she could control everyone else's lives. Gia, realizing she was cornered, finally said she would let both of them go this time but warned that it was their last chance. As she was leaving, Lucy boldly stepped forward and whispered that she had proof against Gia's husband, evidence that he was cheating. Lucy confronts Gia, explaining that she had noticed Gia left home wearing the wedding ring but returned without it, which clearly meant she no longer loved her husband. Gia tried to deflect, asking whether Lucy had an unusually sharp memory or was simply fishing for trouble. But Lucy insisted she knew Gia wanted to be free of her husband, and revealed that she had kept his phone as backup proof. She promised to testify on Gia's behalf, adding that these were enough grounds for divorce. Gia finally admitted that Lucy had discovered her hidden motive, and asked what she wanted in return. Lucy humbly replied that as a mere maid, she desired nothing more than some money. Gia agreed to think about the deal, while internally noting that the girl was far too clever to be underestimated. Meanwhile, Wang sat with a book in his hands, though his anxious face betrayed his real state of mind. His brother Love quickly noticed and teased that Wang should visit the Zhao family to put his mind at ease. Wang tried to act calm, snapped that he was obviously reading, but Love laughed and pointed out that his boss was holding the book upside down. Wang immediately straightened up, embarrassed, and scolded him harshly. Love chuckled, promising not to say another word, though deep down Wang's thoughts were consumed with worry about Lucy. He wondered where she was, and what she might be doing at that moment. Meanwhile, Lucy was quietly gazing at the moon, as if she had discovered some hidden magic in its glow. A new character, Fing, spotted her and wondered who this unfamiliar girl was. While speaking to his father on the phone, he assured him not to worry, promising to deliver the file, remarking jokingly that waiting had become second nature to him. Just then, Gia appeared, telling him that waiting was pointless since the grandfather had already gone to sleep, so he should leave too. This annoyed Fing greatly, and he snapped that the grandfather had no right to sleep so early. Gia teased him, asking if he too intended to break the family rules just like that girl had done. After Gia walked away, Fing's curiosity deepened, and he approached Lucy, asking what she was staring at. She softly replied that she was admiring the moon, claiming she had never seen it look so beautiful before. She then asked who he was, and what business he had there. Fing chuckled and admitted that earlier he thought the Wang family bullied only him, but seeing her made him feel relieved that he wasn't suffering alone. Then Fing gently placed his blazer over Lucy's shoulders, warning her of the chilly night air. She quickly silenced a call from Wang, pretending it was a wrong number, and Fing, smiling, asked if he could at least know her name before leaving. She introduced herself as Fang Ding Dong, making him laugh as he walked away, accidentally forgetting to take his blazer back. The next morning, Wang himself arrived at the Wang residence. Lucy, surprised, asked why he had come so suddenly. He replied that if he hadn't, she would never have told him that Wen Xin had tried to bully her. Lucy awkwardly denied, asking how he even found out. Wang revealed that Madame Mary had told him, explaining that she and Gia had always been rivals who tried to demean each other. He then gently asked Lucy to show him her injury, but she quickly brushed it off, insisting she was perfectly fine. Wang forcefully seized her hand to examine the wound, and, upon seeing the injury, his face darkened with fury. He demanded to know how she could still insist she was fine after being tormented so cruelly. At that very moment, Gia arrived with her husband, and greeted Wang with rehearsed warmth, remarking that it had been ages since they last met. Wang replied that he had heard Wen Xin was injured, so he thought it proper to come by and check on him. Gia, ever the diplomat, quickly interjected that such concern was unnecessary since the injury was hardly serious. But then her eyes fell on Lucy, and she abruptly stopped. With a sharp edge to her voice, she asked what she was doing there, slyly adding that perhaps this time her attention had shifted toward Wang. Lucy quickly explained that she had only come to serve a cup of tea and was already about to leave. Gia, however, wasn't prepared to release her that easily. She reminded Lucy that their deal from yesterday remained unsettled and, with an air of melodrama, declared that she loved her husband deeply and would never allow anyone to wedge themselves between them. Meanwhile, Wang found the perfect excuse to vent his anger on Wen Xin. He deliberately dragged him toward the swimming pool, and Wen Xin, pale and jittery, asked what exactly he was trying to do, pointing out that there was no way forward. He nervously inquired if Wang truly intended to throw him in. On the sidelines, Gia was still waxing lyrical about undying love and lifelong promises, while at that very moment Wang gave Wen Xin a merciless shove straight into the water. Gia shrieked and rushed forward, calling out to see if her husband was all right, while Lucy secretly found the scene more entertaining than a comedy show. Wang, wearing a mask of innocence, claimed his hand had simply slipped, and then strolled off with Lucy, as if nothing had happened. After that, Wang was privately smiling at Lucy's silly antics, particularly noticing how she had no clue how to water plants using the simplest tools. She looked as though she was auditioning for the role of most confused gardener alive. But Madame Mary made sure not to miss her cue, barging in to redirect his attention. Displaying her outfit like a contestant in a beauty pageant, she asked how she looked, proudly boasting that the dress had been designed by one of China's top designers. Wang, unbothered, bluntly remarked that the dress was hideous, and the perfume she had sprayed was so overpowering it could probably kill mosquitoes within a 5-mile radius. He suggested she go back to her room. Yet Mary wasn't the least offended. Instead, she teased him, asking why he seemed so different today. Before leaving, she reminded him that since the grandfather had arrived, he should go meet him, but afterwards he must come to her room. Once she departed, the grandfather entered. Wang greeted him respectfully, but the grandfather immediately questioned why he had created such chaos upon arrival, asking why he had pushed Wen Xin into the pool. Wang cleverly diverted the matter, saying Jia and Wen Xin had been stealing many of his projects, and asked if the grandfather didn't think that was reason enough for anger. Still, he added with calculated humility that if punishment was necessary, he was prepared. The grandfather chuckled and said that the partnership between Wang Group and Zhao's company must continue. He added that although Zhao was gone, he had spent years searching for his granddaughter. Hearing this, Wang's temper flared, accusing him that what he had done to Zhao wasn't enough, and now he wanted to drag her daughter Lucy into it as well. Surprised by his sudden burst, the grandfather asked if Wang had only come to quarrel. Wang quickly softened his tone, claiming he had only missed him and wished to see him. Outside, Lucy had overheard the conversation. The grandfather too noticed Wang's repeated glances behind him and teased, asking whether he was truly here to meet him or the girl lurking outside. He added wryly that Wang usually spoke to him as if they were lifelong companions, yet now it seemed the reality was rather different. With that, the grandfather excused himself, saying he had work, and left. After the meeting, Wang confronted Lucy, warning her to work properly or face salary deductions. She grew nervous but quickly confessed she had heard everything he had said inside. She warned him that if he kept losing his temper, everyone would soon discover he knew the truth about her. She reminded him that he was the one who had insisted they keep their distance, otherwise they risked being caught. Wang, feigning innocence, teased that he didn't remember saying such a thing. He thought he had asked her something entirely different. Clearly, something playful was brewing in his mind. Lucy offered him a candy, thanking him for helping her get revenge on Wen Xin. The sweet reminded Wang of the past, when he had given her a similar candy and promised that everything would eventually be all right. As Lucy walked away, Wang found himself strangely happy. Unbeknownst to them, Mary and Jia had been secretly eavesdropping. Late at night, Wang and Lucy entered a room together, where he asked if she wasn't going to give him something. Lucy, maintaining formality, replied that of course she would, and invited him to walk with her along that path. Whatever they were plotting remained unclear, but once again Mary and Jia followed closely. Mary, seething with jealousy, whispered that the girl's audacity was beyond belief. Jia coldly replied that it wouldn't take long to remove her from their path, suggesting they teach her a lesson at night on the 3rd floor. Meanwhile, the grandfather had already grown suspicious. Believing the girl was far from ordinary, he ordered his assistant to investigate. The report revealed her name was Fang Dingdong, adopted 15 years ago from Handy Road. The mention of Handy Road stunned the grandfather. Back with Mary and Jia, they cornered Lucy, taunting her for daring to act as she pleased in their house. Lucy, however, remained clueless about their true intentions, while the grandfather called Lucy to him. With surprising gentleness, he asked if she had been frightened. Looking at her face reminded him of his own son, and with emotion, he confessed that after so many years, she had finally returned home. He revealed that he had ordered an investigation and, showing her a recording pen found in her belongings, told her she was his granddaughter. Lucy feigned ignorance, insisting she didn't understand. But the grandfather, convinced she was hiding the truth, said he would soon announce her identity and restore her rightful place. Lucy, however, replied that she didn't want her identity back yet. She wished to remain ding-dong until she found evidence proving her father's innocence. The grandfather refused, questioning her real intentions, whether she planned to destroy their family. He urged her to abandon the past and return home. But Lucy, her voice breaking, accused him of forgetting her father too easily and never once trying to clear his name. She declared that as his daughter she could never abandon the fight for his honor. The grandfather pleaded for her to let go, saying their family was already burdened with countless problems. But Lucy, through tears, said that today, for the first time, she had called him Grandpa, and perhaps it would also be the last time because she was determined to restore her father's justice. After saying this, Lucy too walked away. But what exactly is Grandpa trying to conceal? The next day Grandpa summoned Gia and Mary. He also asked Lucy to remain behind. Calmly he explained that tomorrow there would be an important board meeting at the company. He instructed Gia, Mary, and even his assistant that they need not accompany him. Instead, they should stay home and rest. He planned to take one servant along. The assistant agreed but curiously asked which servant he intended to take. Gia and Mary were baffled by this decision. What had gotten into the grandfather that he was showing so much favoritism toward this girl? Gia instantly objected, reminding Grandpa that his health was already fragile and now he wanted to go alone with just a servant when his own family was right there. Grandpa's voice grew cold as he told them he knew exactly what they wanted. All they cared about was increasing their shareholdings. They were merely waiting for him to die so that one of them could take the chairman's seat while the other would snatch the general director's position. His blunt words stung. Both lowered their eyes, visibly shaken. Mary then stepped in with sugary words, claiming he had misunderstood and that they wished nothing of the sort. She flattered him, saying his word was law and that every decision he made must certainly be right. Grandpa, unimpressed, left the room, with Gia hurrying after him. But as Lucy turned to leave, Mary blocked her way. She called her over and said perhaps Grandpa was taking her along out of pity, but she had better take proper care of him otherwise. Mary herself could be far harsher than fate. She shook Lucy's arm menacingly while warning her. Lucy replied firmly that she too had some advice. Mary should stop bullying people. Furious, Mary raised her hand to slap her, but she clearly underestimated her opponent. In a split second, Lucy caught her wrist, twisted it, as if demonstrating a free martial arts lesson. Then, with calm composure, she walked away, leaving Mary fuming and swearing internally that she would not let this girl remain in the family for long. Grandpa took Lucy along to the company meeting, where he wanted to introduce her to the senior executives. Patiently, he explained who managed which responsibility and how capable each was. Among those present was Fing, standing beside his father who had worked with Grandpa for years. Grandpa then asked Lucy to introduce herself. With polite humility, she greeted everyone and said her name was Fang Ding Dong, and that she was a maid of the Wang family. A pin-drop silence followed, and the entire room froze in disbelief. Even Fing looked as if someone had pulled the rug out from under him. To smooth over the awkwardness, Fing's father quickly said how pleased he was to meet her. Grandpa too tried to cover the moment, remarking that he himself had learned a lot from them, almost like a servant learns from his master. Grandpa then asked Fing his age. When he replied he was 22, Grandpa said he had heard from his father about how helpful he was, but remaining only as his father's assistant would be a waste of his talents. He wanted to give him more responsibility. For Fing, this was nothing short of a jackpot moment. Grandpa then announced that Fing would work closely with Lucy, teaching her how to manage projects. Fing himself had no objection, but an elder interrupted, arguing that this was trivial work and did not need Fing's involvement. Grandpa silenced him sharply, demanding who had asked for his opinion. Fing's father tactfully stepped in, saying that if Grandpa had chosen this, it must surely be with reason. Grandpa asked him to come with him, and before leaving, instructed Fing to spend as much time as possible with Lucy. Lucy lost in thought, recalling Wang's earlier words. A flashback revealed how Wang had told her that her first task was complete and that the grandfather had already discovered who she was. Her next task was to get close to his most trusted aide. Even Grandpa's discovery of the recording pen had been part of their plan. Returning to the present, Lucy asked Fing to sit beside her. She inquired if he too found it strange that a maid was suddenly given such a high position. He calmly replied that if the grandfather had done this, there must be a reason. Lucy reassured him, saying that as long as he followed her lead, neither his nor his father's position would be at risk. Fing nodded, agreeing that since Grandpa had instructed him to cooperate with her, he would. Yet inwardly, he too wondered what this girl's true intentions were. The following morning, Lucy was lying on a hammock at the beach, swaying gently, enjoying a rare moment of happiness. Suddenly, Wang appeared beside her. She shot up in alarm, asking if he thought she was naive enough to believe whatever he said without question. Then, with pointed suspicion, she asked, wasn't it true that he had not been her father's friend, but his fiercest competitor? And if that was the case, then why was he still helping her father so much? Wang looked stunned by the accusation and asked when he had ever claimed that he was helping her father. Lucy interrupted him sharply, accusing him of lying. She said she already knew the truth, that he had grown up alongside her father, that when her father was young, Wang used to call him brother, but deep inside, he had always been jealous of him. Lucy reminded him that he had always wanted to beat her father, because her father was simply too awesome, and he, Wang, could never tolerate being second. Hearing this, Wang's face turned crimson with anger. He snapped back, demanding when on earth he had ever called her father his brother, and when had he ever wanted to surpass him. He asked sharply who had been feeding her such nonsense. Lucy coolly replied that it was Miss Hong who had told her everything. Not just this, she had asked Hong many more questions about him as well. She admitted, however, that if she revealed those details now, he would only deny them all. Still, one thing was certain, that he had indeed treated her father as a brother. Otherwise, why would he continue helping him so much even today? She already knew that if she told him more, he would only brush it aside. Wang tried to cover his frustration, insisting that everything she had heard was false. Those were confidential matters, he argued, and what good would it do her to poke her nose into them? She shouldn't be so curious about such secrets anyway. Yet Lucy had already figured out that he was not truly a bad person. No matter how arrogant and rude he tried to appear, deep inside he was different. Suddenly, she rushed over with playful excitement, insisting she would give him a swing. She told him that when she was little, her father used to bring her here too, and together they would enjoy watching the sunset while rocking back and forth. She told him to experience the same joy. Before he could object further, she began pushing the swing with childlike stubbornness. Wang groaned that he neither wanted to play nor experience such silliness, but she kept at it anyway. And then, something unexpected happened. Despite his earlier refusal, he began to enjoy it. Worse, or perhaps better, he realized he actually found her silly little antics amusing. For a man who had always been harsh and stern, this was new. Watching Lucy laugh while pushing him, he felt something different stir inside him, something he had never felt before. Honestly, the way he started enjoying the swing, one might think he was auditioning for a kids' park commercial. Back at Grandpa's place, he called Gia and Mary to him once more, this time at night. They were confused, and asked what was so important that he had summoned them at such an hour. Grandpa looked at Mary and declared that starting tomorrow, she would take Ding Dong with her to the company. He explained he had arranged a job for her there, since she was very talented, and he was ashamed she was working as a mere maid in their house. In truth, Grandpa could not reveal Lucy's real identity, because she herself did not wish for it. So he had found this alternate solution. Gia was furious. She asked why so much sympathy was being wasted on a servant. Mary, being more calculating, gave no visible reaction. Instead, she calmly said she would follow his instructions. Satisfied, Grandpa left, but Gia continued seething with anger. She told Mary that it was time they joined forces against this maid, because alone, neither of them could drive her out of the house. Mary, with quiet suspicion, said she doubted Lucy was an ordinary girl. Gia asked what she meant. Mary explained that she had noticed how much sympathy Dad was showing toward her, and she couldn't help but feel that Lucy bore a striking resemblance to Jiao. After deciding that they will together to throw Lucy from the house, both of them were seen whispering about this on the phone to another person, even sending along Lucy's photo. The voice on the other end warned them that the girl must not be harmed, though it gave no reason why. Hearing this, Mary was even more stunned. First Wang, then Grandpa, and now even their boss was siding with this girl. That could only mean one thing. This girl was no ordinary servant. She was connected to Jiao. Mary reminded Jia that Dad had once said most of the property would go to Jiao's daughter Lucy. If the girl really was her, then their years of effort would be on the verge of crumbling to dust. Gia agreed but asked what they should do now. Mary already had a plan. She revealed that she had removed all the cameras from the house, giving Gia the perfect opportunity to take her revenge on Lucy and teach her a lesson. Gia laughed bitterly, saying she would have taken her revenge anyway. But what benefit would that bring her? Mary smiled slyly, promising that if she gained from this, Gia would not be left empty-handed either. Soon enough, Lucy was brought in, and seeing her, Gia immediately slapped her, furious that a maid had dared to challenge them in their own home. Mary, meanwhile, told her husband to record everything secretly so she could strike two birds with one stone. Poor Gia didn't even realize that the real game was being played against her, that her own husband was the one filming her, not Lucy. Later, when Fing came home, he spotted a red mark on Lucy's cheek. He asked what had happened. She quickly changed the topic, asking whether his father had secured the projects he wanted. Fing leapt up in gratitude, thanking her and insisting it was only possible because of her. She scolded him playfully, calling him stupid, and reminded him he was the guest while she was merely a servant. She also asked him about the favor she had asked from him. Fing assured her he remembered and promised he would speak to his father about it. Afterwards, Lucy asked him to join her for lunch. He wanted to take her to a fancy restaurant, but she refused, preferring a small and simple place. He agreed, saying he only needed to report to Grandpa first. As he left, he paused and turned back, thanking her once more for being a good friend. He admitted that after childhood, he had never had a true friend again. Hearing this, Lucy felt a pang of guilt. She asked whether he would still feel the same if she was merely using him. Fing didn't quite understand her meaning but laughed softly, saying even if she was using him, he didn't mind. Honestly, that's either the purest kind of friendship or the dumbest contract ever signed. While eating, Fing asked why she was so curious about Jiao. Lucy couldn't tell him the truth, so she changed the story, saying that as a student she had once been helped by Jiao, and now she wanted to repay that favor. But she later discovered he had committed suicide years ago, and she couldn't even find his wife or daughter. Fing promised that if he ever came across any information about Jiao he would share it with her. Just then, Wang appeared, quietly taking a seat nearby so he could listen to their conversation. Fing turned to Lucy, smiling, and teased her by asking why she was staring at him and smiling so much. She replied that he seemed very familiar to her because he was kind. Wang overheard everything and immediately remarked that this girl must have come either to flirt behind his back or to wring the truth out of someone. When Fing tried to remove something from her lips, Wang could not tolerate it any longer and furiously demanded who had given him the audacity to touch her. Poor Fing, utterly baffled as to what Brother Wang is doing here and why he was behaving like a volcano about to erupt, trembled so much that he instantly switched chairs and even surrendered his seat to Wang. Stammering, he asked why he was so enraged, since after all, they were just friends. Then Fing, suspicious, asked if the two of them had known each other earlier. Wang, acting as though it were his divine right, brushed something off Lucy's cheek and declared that indeed, they already knew each other. Lucy panicked inwardly, wondering what excuse he would conjure up this time, and Wang, without missing a beat, proclaimed that he was her guardian. Fing's jaw nearly touched the floor at this ludicrous claim, wondering how such a thing could even be true. Lucy, horrified, immediately slapped her hand over Wang's mouth and told Fing not to take his nonsensical ramblings seriously, urging him to just eat his food before it grew cold. Then she leaned toward Wang and whispered, asking what exactly he was doing here and whether he had planted a tracker on her, otherwise how on earth could he know she was here? Wang retorted sharply, asking if she despised him so much that he was not even allowed to breathe the same air in this place. Lucy tried to explain that it wasn't like that, but warned him that if he kept tailing her around like a badly programmed GPS and influencing her, then how was she supposed to extract the truth from Fing? Wang sneered and declared that Fing knew nothing at all. The two of them bickered so intently that it felt as though Fing had become invisible furniture in the room. Finally, Fing interrupted, saying that he actually did know a fragment of the truth. Since he had already acknowledged Lucy as his friend, he promised not to conceal anything. Lucy leaned forward eagerly, begging him to reveal everything. Fing explained that while everyone believed Mrs. Zhao had died of depression, she was in fact still alive. Lucy and Wang were both thunderstruck. Fing admitted that he knew it sounded unbelievable, but if they wished, he could even arrange for them to meet her. All of them went to meet her mother. Lucy could not even recognize her own mother and turned to Wang in disbelief, asking if this frail woman was really her. He told her that after her father's accident, her mother had suddenly disappeared, leading everyone to presume she had died from depression. When Mrs. Zhao saw them, she recoiled in fear, asking who they were and what business they had there. She insisted she did not want to leave with them and nervously asked if the grandfather had sent them. Lucy's heart melted seeing her mother's pitiable state, and she walked closer, softly saying she was her daughter. But just as Lucy had failed to recognize her mother too failed to recognize her own child, insisting her real daughter was still with her. Lucy tried desperately to explain, pleading that she was truly her daughter and asking who had reduced her to such a condition. But her mother grew even more terrified, exclaiming that she would never reveal anything because those people were monstrously dangerous and would kill her child. She even shuddered at Wang's presence and begged him to leave. Wang, respecting her fear, quietly walked out. Once he was gone, her mother calmed slightly, but Lucy realized she was in no mental state to disclose anything. Later, Lucy sat alone, seething with anger at the thought that the entire Shen Jiao family was built on lies. Wang sat beside her and asked what she planned to do now. Lucy declared firmly that the Shenjiao family had destroyed her parents' lives, and that she would definitely uncover evidence against them. Wang told her he would help, but she snapped back that it wasn't necessary because he had already done enough. He corrected her, saying he wasn't asking but informing her. He turned to leave, then paused, and said that once everything was settled, she would hand over all of the Shenjiao projects to him. He told her she had only two options. The first was to return as a maid, infiltrate the Shenjiao household again, and dig for evidence, an endeavor that was about as easy as convincing a cat to take a shower. Lucy admitted it would not be easy, but vowed never to give up. Wang then revealed the second option. She could walk into the family openly. Lucy frowned, baffled at what he meant. Wang explained she could become his fiancée. He argued that by joining hands seeking justice for her parents and him seeking the Shenjiao projects, they would both achieve victory. He added that in just a few days his engagement party with Mary would take place, and she would have to convince everyone she was his betrothed, even if it were all an elaborate charade. Lucy stood frozen, unable to form words. Wang took her hand, drew her closer, and reassured her not to worry, as it was only a play. Then, with calculated ease, he slipped off his engagement ring and placed it on her finger. Lucy was so stunned she could only stare speechlessly. Meanwhile, Grandpa discovered how cruelly Jia had beaten Lucy. Even though Jia begged profusely for forgiveness, claiming she had merely obeyed Mary's orders, Grandpa was unmoved. He reminded her that if she were truly a good woman, her own husband would not have turned against her and provided incriminating video evidence. Declaring that it was useless to defend herself, Grandpa disinherited her and ordered the assistant to throw her out of the house. After she was dragged away, Grandpa commanded the assistant to summon Mary immediately. Later, Mary arrived at Lucy's foster mother's house, demanding to know the truth. She asked what Fang Ding Dong's relation was to her. The foster mother replied she was her adopted daughter, though she couldn't recall where she had found her. Mary, furious, pressed her to remember, even bribing her with money. The moment the foster mother saw the bank card, her memory miraculously returned, proving that money was the best brain supplement, and she whispered the truth about where she had picked Ding Dong up. On hearing this, Mary stormed away in rage. At home, the atmosphere was festive. Grandpa was overjoyed, and Mary happily told him it had been a long time since she had seen him in such good health. Grandpa declared that he would finally fix her engagement date with Wang, convinced they were destined for each other. Mary was elated, though puzzled why no one from the other side had arrived yet. At that moment, a servant announced that a girl named Lucy was outside, requesting to come in. Mary snapped that under no circumstances should she be allowed in. But before the servant could leave, Wang himself appeared, bringing Lucy with him, holding her as though they were a couple. Poor Mary was shocked to her core, realizing that this same girl who was giving her headache now had stolen her fiancé. Wang, however, had orchestrated the drama deliberately. He remembered Zhao's words over the phone, reminding him that they had once been close friends and entrusting his daughter to him for protection. Inwardly, Wang told himself that the only way to protect her was to make her his fiancée. Mary wanted to retaliate and humiliate them, but her father restrained her, telling her not to create a spectacle. Wang then publicly announced that sooner or later, he had to choose a life partner. And he had chosen Lucy. The moment he said it, firecrackers erupted, lighting the sky. Lucy was delighted, while Wang gazed only at her, lost in their shared memories. Though for everyone else this was only an act, deep inside Wang had already started falling for her. To make the charade more convincing, he even kissed her in front of everyone. Mary, consumed by fury, storms like she is about to shove Lucy into the ground.